And your game's development cycle has seen a lot of summers and winters so far.
Yeah.
It's been 3 years now. Why does a game take so much time to develop? Like a lot of people who look at a game from outside think that, hey, why is this so difficult? I mean, you can just put this across in like few days or weeks. And there's literally this misconception, and this also stems from the fact that there's a lot of lack of information. Like for example, if you few months ago I did this activity where I searched on Google, how much time did it take to develop Minecraft.
Okay.
There was legit an article that says 6 days. And while that might have been true for the initial version, but Minecraft as a game is still being worked on to this date.
Yeah,
right? So it's not 6 days. So why does a game of any scale, like be it a simple game or a complex game, take so much time?
Well, see, I think making a game is just an incredibly difficult endeavor. It just requires so many different skills, all working together in harmony.
Yeah.
And unlike some other things, a game, it's interactive. There's a feel aspect to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that have really taken time to basically become industry standards. I said that every year the bar gets higher, and that's because people are playing games, and then you learn a lesson from a game and you put that in your own game.
Yeah.
But if you play a game from 2002 and you play a game from 2022, almost entirely, like, forget the quality of the game. If you just play those games, you'll notice the game that came out in 2022, again, forgetting graphics, forgetting those obvious improvements, you feel like the game that came out in 2022 is a lot easier to play.
Yeah.
We understand now how players approach games, the UI, UX aspect of it. So there's just so many different things. Art, but like there's so many subcategories of art. Programming, but again, so many subcategories of programming.
Yeah.
Audio, UI, UX, the game feel. It's just such a big, all-encompassing field that it's very hard to, I would say, do all of these things. I remember being shocked when I first scoped out Miners Metal, and we thought it would take 2 years, 6 people 2 years, and it took 11 people 4.5 years.
Wow.
And I must have cut half of the scope out of the game, including multiplayer. Right? So can you imagine how off base my scope was? And that was me doing it as someone who had never made a game before and had just joined the industry.
Right.
So I fully understand. You think that, this shouldn't take too long. The problem is, it's a living piece of work, and I think one thing people don't think about is you make a game, you have to test it, or even if you're not getting it externally tested, you are playing it.
It's very much like having a baby.
Yes.
Giving birth to a baby from ground zero, teaching the baby how to walk, talk, and then enroll it in a school, get feedback.
Right.
It's a complex process, and I think it's a beautiful process as well.
It is. And I think that one thing, because you see, you design a game in a certain way, right? Like you sit and you think about the design. Then you start making the game. Then you realize, okay, this direction that I wanted to go in maybe is not the best direction.
Yeah.
So you switch directions. But half of your programming was built to accommodate the other direction.
Right.
So now some bugs have been introduced, certain things you need to go back and refactor and redo.
Yeah.
So it's just, things are constantly changing, and yes, you can just crack out a small game. Yes, absolutely, you can make a game in 6 days. But you're talking about the level of games that, came out in the 80s, like Pong, and, maybe if you're really good, like Tetris or something.
Yeah.
But yes, it's just very difficult. And if you ask me to make a game that came out in 2002, maybe I could do that in a few months, because the art level, the standard was lower.
Yeah.
And I think also a lot of people, when they look at, oh, I want to make this game.
Yeah.
How long will it take? They're not realizing that, okay, like this AAA studio, it made the game in 3 years. But they had like 400, they had 400 people on the team and 600 contractors whose names maybe aren't even on the credited list.
Yeah, I read one article on GTA Vice City. The GTA Vice City was developed in 9 months, and about 300 people worked on that game. GTA Vice City. This is like 2002 that we're talking about.
Yeah. And that was built entirely on GTA 3, right? They had already built 3, so then it's the okay, you take the everything you did for 3 and you just build on that.
Right.
Similarly, Nintendo made Majora's Mask in a year.
Yeah.
Right? The mandate was make another Zelda game in a year because they spent so many years on Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
But that's you still need to spend those many years building
Right.
GTA 3 and Ocarina of Time, right? Like
Absolutely.
you can't just be like, okay, they did it in a year, so now I can do it in a year.
Yeah.
You have to look at the first game they made. That took
Yeah.
7 years or whatever. And then the next game took a year.
Yeah.
So, and we are not at that stage, unfortunately. We're not fortunate enough, you and I, to be working on a game that,
Yeah.
is building upon another game. And that's what I like to
Yeah.
do with Frontier Paladin. That's part of the reason I chose this, is because I have so many ideas and my team has so many ideas. To come out with a game every 4 years, every 3.5 years is difficult.
Yeah.
That means in your life you come out with maybe 10 games, right, if you're
Right.
lucky. So to be able to come out with a game next time around, it maybe takes 2 years. We use the same combat system, but obviously we make other changes, add new features, make some tweaks here and there.
Yeah.
But to come out with the game in 2 years, I think that is kind of what we're thinking of. Because I agree, it takes so long, and sometimes it's also you can be so excited for it, but it just drains you by the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were so happy to be done with Minus Metal.
Yeah.
And if you had told me that in 2018 when we had been working on it for a few months, I would have said no way. Like obviously I'd be happy to have the game come out, but like to be honest, I was just sick of the game after 4.5 years.
Yeah.
Like to this day, it's been I don't play it that often because
Yeah.
I'm just like it took too much out of
It
me.
is that dilemma, right? It's like once you create a movie, you can't watch it as a piece of entertainment. Like
Yeah.
it is a piece of work that you contributed.
And it's memories, right? You look
Yeah.
at certain things, and I'm like, oh man, I remember this really annoying thing that took forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, even here, like all of these things that I'm playing, the game isn't out yet, but we worked on it for close to 3 years, and every asset I'm looking at has some memory attached to it.
Absolutely.
The UI, I'm looking at the UI, and I'm
Yeah.
like, man, it's so annoying getting the UI correct.
Yeah.
And like this thing took a surprisingly long amount of time.
Yeah.
The mana system got reworked a few months ago. Like all of these things that have memories attached to them to me. So yeah.